Nalima, we are ready to get underway when you are. Thank you.
Namaste to everyone. I'm Nilima Bassett, and thank you so much for joining. I think most of the members attended the first one, and the second one is also, it's a continuation to what we started to make sure that more clubs in BPW are aware about how to apply for the ECOSOC status. So to go back, 105 years ago, when BPW first started, it was right after the World War One in 1919, and UN also started after, around 1945 after the World War II. So the world that we live in right now is no less than how it was back then. And one thing I can definitely say is that our effort to bring peace in the world should not stop anywhere. It should even we have to speed up more, and for that, this ECOSOC, status needs. We need to have more BPW have ECOSOC status because we need to have more voice at United Nations because getting ECOSOC status, I think BPW got in 1945 where it was we just had the consultative status A where, we were able to attend. But then in 1978, then it was elevated to, status first B, then A. Now we can submit written, and oral, statements at CSW and many other events, and not just that, organize side events and attend events and make sure that more women are part of the UN events that's taking place around the world. In last 7 months, what I've seen is that though BPW only had like 20 passes, BPW International only had 20 passes to attend the CSW. We had BPW Canada, BPW Spain, and BPW Japan who had passes. So they were like 80 of us who were able to attend, and we got more passes from other NGOs. So to make sure that our 27,000 plus members get maximum, opportunity to attend UN, this is why this initiative is started this term because we want more countries to get the, status and make sure that maximum members from their countries are represented. And one of the thing about having ECOSOC status is, attending is one part. Attending and giving statement and everything is another part. But making our BPW sisters, especially women, to be part of this global conversation that's going around UN. I think that's where we need to work on. We need to know what the conversation is going to about ILO, what the conversation is going about WHO, what the world is talking about, human rights, or what the CEDA that's happening right now in Geneva. We need to be a part of that conversation and, at least try to implement something back home because if we don't implement anything back home, I think all the policies, all the statements, or any outcome of any events at the UN, it will not make any difference. And for that, I want to thank Siobhan and Carol Shaw from our UN team who has started this initiative to make sure that our BPW members, they are well aware of how to apply because, we don't want to start and then just wait for next year because it takes 2 years for any NGO to get a consultative status. And till then, there are many, BPW clubs who can actually get this, apply for this status. And thank you for this continuation. And thank you to everyone who are joining. And I hope at least, I don't have big hopes like 100 of, 10 or 20 countries will apply. At least 1 or 2 countries, if they apply this year and get approved within 2 years, I think that is a huge achievement to BPW International itself. So with this, I would like to welcome every one of you and, let's get this thing started. Okay, Siobhan, back to you.
Thank you very much, BPU in Nalima. Hi, everyone. I'm Siobhan Dilly from BPW New Zealand. It's 11 p.m. over here, so bear with me. It's well past my bedtime, but I know a lot of you are coming from very early morning times and taking time out, and so thank you. Just a quick overlook at the agenda. We've got a recap from Carol coming up.
The slides are not moving, Siobhan.
They are not moving. Okay, sorry, thank you. We'll try that. There we go. Better? Very good. Thanks, Carol. So Carol's going to give us a recap, and then I've dug out the profile application questions. This will make a bit more sense as we get to it, and then we're going to go through some of the application questions, and there's time for Q&A. But before we keep going, I will go to the acknowledgements. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and waters we meet today. I work and play on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation in Australia and wish to pay respects to custodians of the land, the elders, honour their elders past, present and those emerging. And for myself, acknowledge that sovereignty in Australia has never been ceded in battle or bargain, and that we are on lands that always were and always will be Aboriginal lands. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Can we please invite VP Nalima to read the collect for us?
Keep us, O Lord, from pettiness. Let us be large in thoughts, in word, and in deed. May we put away all pretense and meet each other face to face without self-pity and without prejudice. May we never be hasty in judgment and always generous. Let us take time for all things. Make us grow calm, serene, gentle. Teach us to put into action our better impulses, straightforward and unafraid. Grant that we may realize that it is in the little things that create differences, that in big things of life we are at one. And may we strive to touch and to know the great common human heart of us all. And, O Lord, let us not forget to be kind. Thank you, Siobhan.
Thank you. And I think the world needs a lot of that spirit at the moment. So always good to come back to our collect. Over to you, Carol, for a recap.
All right, thank you. So just a bit of an expectation setting and a recap of what we've already covered so far, because I think most of you were in the last session. Today, we are going to really focus more on how to build your profile. We are now looking at, we've already gone through the webinar where we've talked about what is accreditation, what are the benefits, what's the process, who can and who can't. That's now up, that's been circulated through the WhatsApp and online, and I believe it's going to be online in the BPWI YouTube. That's the word. YouTube. It's late here too. Sorry. So very clearly, what we're going to be doing today is we're looking at setting up your profile. We're looking at getting you ready to apply for ECOSOC status in June 2026. So we went through, if you can just, can I get power to move the slides? The next one. The next one. Yeah. So as said in the previous webinar, there are 6 steps that we need to go through that will be happening up until June. June will be the initial screening, so that will be step 3. Step 3 is getting everything in by June, and then it will take the next few months. It's normally, it's normally another 2 to 3 month process for the review and recommendation for application. What we want to do with BPW is really make sure that we give you as much support as possible so that the first time it goes in, it doesn't come back. It's not bounced back, that we get everything really clear now. Can you go back one slide, please, Siobhan? We've already gone through the requirements for ECOSOC accreditation, and that means, and what that means, what that allows you to do. So I'll just briefly go through that again. To be eligible for ECOSOC accreditation, your work must be relevant to the work of the Economic Social Council. So you need to be already active or be planning to be active in those spaces. So that's Commission on the Status of Women, it's the International Labour Organization, it's CEDAW, it's the Human Rights Councils. Any of those that you're busy on, SDGs, if you're busy working on Sustainable Development Goals, that's great, right? So we need to be keeping that at the top of our mind. That's what they're interested in. they're also a little bit interested in what you do nationally, but it's more about your communication strategies. You need to have a transparent and democratic decision-making mechanism, and that's what you have to be able to transfer into the questions that we're going to be going through. The headquarters needs to be established with an executive office or an officer, have been in existence for 2 years, have the authority to speak for your members, have a representative structure, which comes back to this transparent and democratic decision-making process, have appropriate mechanisms for accountability. When we look at what that translates into, that is normally annual general reports, that is normally accounts, that you have regular and transparent processes for your accounting and for your work that go to all of your members, but also to the broader public, so the public mechanisms. And the financial statements, which include contributions and other support and expenses. We're going to go a little bit more into that when we look at this, when we look at the questions. You'll be able to see why those are important. Where we are going to be focused in, we talked last session around the 2 databases. One is Isango, which is the one that most of us are members of, because that's where we go in to fill our information for the meetings for the Commission on the Status of Women. We have to fill in our profiles and send that off. But where we're going to be concentrating today is the ICSO database, which is the International CSO database, or as we call it, ESANGO, ESANGO. And this is where you will find, this is the database that you have to log into when you start to set up your profile. I am not going to say much more unless there's any questions, because I think we need to really now go into the profile registration. Any more questions? Anybody have any questions, or is there anything that we need to further recap or set? I don't see any hands up.
Just
Okay.
Rita
yeah?
from.
Yes. So it's Rita from Austria. I was urged by our representative in Vienna to participate in this meeting and to apply for ECOSOC, and we see it. Well, and this was on a relatively short notice, so I'm a bit new to everything that's happening here. We just see the necessity to be part of the game in the future, and I'll probably have some more questions concerning this application procedure. I'm taking notes now. You see, I'm taking notes. So I might probably not understand exactly what you are saying. So anyway, I'll keep quiet, and I'll do that only in case it would hinder or bother me from understanding the rest. And I feel free to contact either Carol or also Nelima if there were any further questions for Austria to apply for the for ECOSOC in the UN. And there might be one question for me to understand. I was told that the UN is focusing due to our general world situation. A UN is focusing more now on let me say organizations than on government and politics. Is that right? And is this the reason why we should engage more in ECOSOC? Or is it just a rumor, or what's going on there in the? I would like to understand.
The broader, Nelima, do you want to answer that question, or?
I can explain better than I do.
What would Rita? Thanks for being here, and it was great to see you because you were in Malta as well. I saw you when you were in Malta.
And also in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yes. But I can keep quiet. I don't
No,
need
no, no. I
need
think
to have this
it's
question answered.
important that we have a discussion, maybe not here, but we have a look at what is happening more broadly with the UN, because there's a lot of shifts and changes. What we are
Mhm.
seeing globally is a pushback on women's rights, women's organizations. What we are seeing globally is a rise in conflict, a shift in development funds. So what's happening is, to fuel the mechanisms of war, there is a shift globally and generally across most countries, that more money is being put into defense than into health, education, and development funds. And we're seeing this both. I know the European Union have just come out and spoken about that in Europe. That's not a conversation for today. I think what we need to understand for this is we are looking at how we can build the strength organizationally for non-government organizations to have a voice at the UN. And this is why it is crucial. Being in Vienna, you will have the opportunity to also have representatives in Vienna. So not just in New York and not just in, with ECOSOC accreditation, you can have them in Geneva, Vienna, and UN and New York. Sorry, New York. I was thinking, where's the one I'm missing? So it gives the opportunity for more of that. So if we can hold that bigger conversation, and yes, there is definitely something else going on. There's also the third power of, private enterprise that's coming into this debate, but that's not what we're now going to be looking at. What we're going to look at is how we can raise our voices and strengthen our voices as BPW in the UN, and taking it from this very point of getting ourselves registered so we have a voice there, independently but collectively. And I think Nalema will be talking later about how this independence and collectivity will work, because you are an independent organization, but you're also an associate member of international. So how that will work will be something that we'll have to discuss a little bit later. Is that okay, Rita?
Definitely, yes. But it was just because I'm here on such short notice, and I realized that there had been already one such meeting, and I lack this information, but I'm confident that I can catch up with the one or the other.
Yeah. And you're in the WhatsApp group. So the video from the last webinar is in that WhatsApp group.
I'm not sure whether I am in this WhatsApp group.
You will be in this WhatsApp group.
I will be.
At the
Okay.
end of this session.
Yes.
And again, we are going to record this meeting, and we will be sharing a couple of templates for federations to use for their application questions.
Excellent. Thanks, Rita.
But Rita,
over
please,
to you then, Siobhan.
And Rita, please feel very welcome. There is no wrong time to apply for ECOSOC accreditation. All the time. All time is a good time. I think in New Zealand, we'd always valued ECOSOC accreditation. We'd seen the power of it through Pacific Women's Watch and the International Federation. And so we've been talking about this for 6 or 7 years as a federation. And we put our application in on, I think, the 30th of May, 2025, just recently. So we're hoping to have ECOSOC accreditation in the next year or two. So we're going to move on now to talking about the process for getting your profile registered, and I'm going to take you through the questions and that process, because I did it very, very recently, just 2 months ago. And you know how you often might enter a portal to subscribe to a program or join a membership group, and it's, you just give your name, you give the organization name, you might give your charity number if you're a charity. Well, this had a few surprises for me, this just simply registering your profile. So that is why Carol and I really wanted to talk you all through it, so that you can be prepared for surprises. In the outset, in terms of who from your federation would be best involved in this process, I can say it's someone that knows the activities that are happening across the Federation, locally and nationally, someone that knows the Constitution, and someone that can easily access and knows your reviewed or audited financial accounts, your year-end reports. We're going to talk about year-end reports and the financial stuff later, but just before you set off, if you can find that someone that is across those three things, that's helpful. Am I missing any other area it would be helpful for them to be across? Knows the policy and procedures, the structure of the Federation. Okay, I just want to say, just feel very welcome to put questions in the chat. We are keeping an eye on it, or to use the raise hand function. We're not running this as a webinar. It's a little bit more relaxed as a meeting because we expect there's going to be questions. This is fairly technical stuff, this process. Right, I should be screen sharing something that says NGO branch, UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, profile registration, organisation name, great, your federation's name, the acronym and the former name, but just the organisation's name is required. Your headquarters address, and there's some parameters that they want in terms of the address. So in New Zealand, we don't have a headquarters. We have a registration address attached to our registration as an unincorporated society. That's usually the president's address or the treasurer's address. So I became treasurer for BPW New Zealand in early May, so I updated our incorporated society's information to have my address rather than the previous treasurer, and that's the address we have given the UN for our application. Okay, so I'm going to keep scrolling down, but raise your hand if you get to something and you're like, what's this one? And I've skipped over it. The typical contact information, website, organisation type, I believe was different type, sort of NGO, civil society, academic, research, but there's a drop-down list available. Same with languages. Then we're going to get into they're asking for contacts and participation, and asking you to add at least one contact person. So that might be your vice president issues, or UN or advocacy, your president, treasurer, Carol.
Can I just say that is the person that they will send the information to. So it's best if you probably have your president, whoever needs to know, plus the person who's filling out the form and doing the legwork.
Yeah. Nerman also made a comment about the address. If you can have a business address, that is sometimes better than anything that is obviously a home address. Nerman, is that more for security, safety, confidentiality, or is it more for professionalization?
It's something that I've noticed in New York is that if you use, I'm in an apartment, right? If I put down apartment 7B, I get a comment back saying that, is this really an organization? Is this something you're running from your home? And so I have learned now to put suite 7B. I mean, as long as the postman sees 7B, they don't really care whether I'm in an apartment or a suite.
Okay. Like I'm a unit, so.
Right.
Rita, yes.
So, well, our office address usually changes with the president. And we don't run a proper office because we can't afford that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be probably re-elected in November. So in this way, concerning my person, we are safe. But the office address we have had so far is probably going to change. So what shall we do in case if it changes? Normally it changes with every president. So
your address on the profile needs to match the address with the government body that you're registered with. Carol, do you want to add anything to that? You can update your profile once it's approved.
So then we should think of a valid address right now.
A valid address. Well, the address is the current president's.
Doesn't have to be the same
an
address
that
forever.
will work in 1 year, in 26.
You can update it once your profile's approved, which shouldn't take long. I think it took us 3 working days. You will be able to update the address when the address changes.
So we can update it.
Yeah, that's
okay.
right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it.
And and I found the portal quite straightforward to log in and enter information and update later.
And the address needs to be on your letterhead, because when you have to put in your information to the UN, the letterhead address has to be the same address.
Okay.
If I may just say, it's really important that all the information you have matches across all the media you have.
Exactly.
So your letterhead, your LinkedIn account, if you have that, any kind of platforms you're on all of these things, the addresses just need to match. Because nowadays, unfortunately, there are people who are going to look for any reason to exclude you. They're not going to give you a pass, reasonable doubt, what have you. So it is up to you just to ensure that across all your platforms, your address, your name, your title, everything matches.
Thank you. Exactly. Okie dokie. So after and you can have more than one contact, and you can update contacts after your profile is approved. We're going to look at.
Sorry, can I just go back to the address, because it does have their mailing address. So the address, the physical address of your organization can be different to the mailing address. That's where you can have a PO box. That's what I have, is a PO box for the mailing and a physical address for the organization. You see, it says it there. Go further down. Mailing address. If it's
that's
different.
for the, yeah.
That's where you can put a PO address in.
Yeah. Okay, activities. So what they asked you to do is to explain the areas of work that you're in and that relate to the Economic and Social Council. But there's quite a lot, so I haven't captured everything. What I've shown is the higher level fields of activity. And then for each field of activity, there's a drop-down list where you can select your area of expertise. So, for example, you can go into sustainable development and select, I can't even remember, but there might be climate change or disaster response or climate resilience. So really understanding the spaces that your organization's in is going to be important here. Having a good purview of what's happening. I personally felt I tried to keep it fairly focused for BPW New Zealand, and try to select what we were truly ongoing active in, rather than selecting a broad cross section. But Carol, you're welcome to comment on that.
Yeah, I think the 3 key areas that, or the 2 key areas that I see as BPW being really engaging in is social development and sustainable development, and then the possibly financing for development. I'm not sure if we're doing much work in that area, but that's certainly one that's the 3 that I see BPW in. NEPIAD is the program it's an African program, just for those who are not sure. It's the New Partnership for African Development. So we're not involved in the last 3, or unless you're an African one of the clubs from Africa who may be working in that space.
Will
Nerlin,
you-
do you have any on that? Any comment on that? I think mostly it's sustainable and social development. On the
Sorry, did you ask me or Nalima?
both
Our
I
name-
asked, yeah.
Our names being similar
Yeah.
sometimes.
And I have a strange accent, so Nalima, did you say where international is mainly active?
I think we have it in so economic and social, because financing for development is something that is happening, and where we are attending as a BPW member and organizing a side event. And also we have a panelist from BPW, and sustainable development is one of the highlights that BPW has been doing. Besides that, I think it depends upon what is implemented in Africa. So maybe it depends on like what the country or the club is doing. So as far as I know, there are really few countries who are trying to apply for ECOSOC status this time. So maybe, it would be really nice to understand if, they are working on those topics as well, because the reports that we get, it's all about the SDGs. That's all I have seen so far.
I'd like to add to that, there's also a real emphasis on people who can bring in expertise and in terms of IT, in terms of AI for development, IT for development, IT for women. There's a huge gap in that area, and that's something that is really being privileged, because while there haven't been very many applications recently, there's also a huge backlog that they're working through of applications from 2 years from the COVID era. But health, IT, AI, those are areas that, especially for women, that are really critical. And out of prudence, I would be careful in the wording of anything to do with climate change, and resilience. There are certain words that the US is tying to any amount of money that they give that they don't want to see in an application. So we should check what the current words on the banned list are in the US, because they may filter through to the UN.
Thank you. All right, and then they're going to ask about geographic scope. So I kept this. We're going to be International Federation is international. If BPW Asia Pacific was applying, they would be regional, but New Zealand, BPW New Zealand, we're national. Carol and I have discussed the question about clubs applying and federations, and our advice at the moment is that federations should have that overview of any applications for ECOSOC status that should be sitting with the president of the federation. Anything to add to that, Carol or Nalima? Yeah.
I think from BPW so far, BPW Canada, BPW Spain, and Japan, BPW Japan, as a federation, they have applied.
Yes.
And I think that's how we need to move forward, because if one club is applying and if they form a federation later on, there is going to be a lot of conflict. So it would be better if, as a federation, we move this application ahead.
Mm-hmm. Then they put in a question asking about your involvement with the Millennium Development Goals, which were the predecessor to the Sustainable Development Goals. Actually, it might be a good idea to check in, Carol, around there. I read it as they want to know your ongoing activity or your expertise in the field, rather than something you might have been involved in as an organisation 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because a lot of that carried over. I would read it as I would actually be putting sustainable development issues in here and say, the organization recognizing certain strategies had not worked. We're now following through on these strategies through the Sustainable Development or through the 2030 agenda, and linking in, because the Millennium Development Goals are just part of the Sustainable Development Goals that were part of that, and they're bigger than the 2030 agenda. So exactly that, what you said is looking at your long-term expertise, but also looking at your linkages now to Sustainable Development Goals or financing for development, which also comes out of this.
Great. I'm going to keep moving through.
Yeah.
They asked your year established and your year of registration. So New Zealand, BPW New Zealand was established in 1939. We were registered as an unincorporated society in 1991. I think that's right. So you need to make sure you know when your official registration was versus when you're established. Your organizational structure should be informed by your constitution. That should be laying out your organizational structure. Theoretically, it should be pretty similar between the federations, because it all feeds through from the regional groups and the International Federation. I've got to say on some of these, I had 4,000 characters. I didn't necessarily use it all if it would have just been waffling. No one wants anyone waffling in a form. Number and types of members. Carol, do you want to talk about this, because that can be defined so differently?
Yeah, the way that I view this and the way that it looks at it later on when you start to talk about the structure of your organization, is not so much, they don't want to know how many members you've got, but what how your reach is, how your members talk to each other. And normally there would be for this, the number and types of members would be, a general member. Do you have any subsistence? Does anybody get any special deals, like a student is the student pensioner? Do you think about that kind of thing?
Young members.
Young members. And then also, do you have like apart from that, like a mailing list that's not members, but have an outreach to, that you have an outreach and an interaction to and with? So that's what I would be looking at. There would be those different levels of membership. So you've got core memberships, you've got, the team, but they're not asking you what they're charging, but later on, they do ask you what they charge for each level of membership. So again, you have to be consistent across the whole thing. So having a template is going to be really useful.
I focused on our year in December 2024. So that's where I took the membership numbers, and that's where I used our financial accounts. And also, if we'd had any major changes, I referred always to the status of everything, members of the executive at December 2024. So, and the types of members should also be informed by your constitution, as Carol says. Individual members,
lifetime
clubs,
members.
Yeah, the relationship with clubs. Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to talk there about the organizational membership? As in corporate members?
Yeah, so those federations with corporate members, that will be another membership category, and you will be answering more detailed questions about your corporate or organizational members in the questionnaire, the next phase of applying. They wanted to know how many individual members or individual members you have versus corporate members, and the amount that's being paid by each, the cost for each. It's a good idea, actually thinking back to the entity that is applying, is to make sure that you are using your federation, your country federation, and explaining that we, like the Federation of Business and Professional Women New Zealand, is affiliated with the International Federation of Business and Professional Women. We are not the same organisation, we are affiliated. That's really important. They will not want the International Federation getting an ECOSOC status twice, as nice as that would be for NLIMA. It's not going to happen. So yeah, make sure you include your country name or your full country federation name. Cool. Right. Let's keep going to affiliation with NGO networks. So that's where we'd be talking about our affiliation with the International Federation. In New Zealand, we also have national affiliations with the National Council of Women and Pacific Women's Watch. So that's just reporting your linkages to the wider network. Any questions there? It might be worth, Carol, thinking about, will they be looking for a formal affiliation? You know, with the two that I mentioned, with the three that I mentioned, it is an ongoing, there's a subscription or there's an affiliation fee, or affiliation with NGO networks. Can that be the more nebulous, unstructured, informal relationships?
I tend to keep it as succinct as possible. So where you have I wouldn't keep these more nebulous relationships. I would put as little as possible. You know, what they need to know is what they need to know, because as Nerman's already said, they're looking at any excuse to. So where you have strong and you work collectively at a national level, and this is where it's really interesting, because I filled it in from the regional level. So we had to, at this point, put in all of our affiliate NGO organizations in all the different countries that we had, to show our scope and range of who we were working with. And so I think that is what they're looking at, is what is the scope and range of what you're working at here. Are you working, you may be business and professional women, but are you maybe affiliated and working collaboratively with disability or LGBTQI or you know, other organizations, rural and regional women, Indigenous women? How is that reflected in you, you know, in there?
Good point. Yeah. Perhaps possibly if you've got projects that are raising funds or supporting other NGOs, it's worth looking at. And I've got a point here that it's worth checking if the affiliated groups have ECOSOC status.
Yes, because you need that later on.
Yeah. Okay. And funding structure, the drop-down options are sort of like grants from government bodies, dues and subscriptions, that kind of thing. So there's a drop-down list, and I found it pretty straightforward because in New Zealand we are very much funded by member dues. I didn't feel the need to expand on that. You may if you have a more complicated funding structure.
I think the main thing is that you're not fully funded by government.
Yeah.
If you do have government grants, then you have to explain that later.
Or a single corporation or corporate bodies. Okay, and so then we go to another section with this profile registration. Yes, it does keep going. So we keep slogging on. The next session, they want more specific information about your areas of expertise and interest. And so for each area, sustainable development, social development, advancement of women, et cetera, they ask questions that they are giving you free text opportunity to respond to. So the questions they might ask, for example, like, certainly I put the most in advancement of women, are major group affiliation, involvement in UN partnerships, affiliation with other organizations, statements or documents submitted. I think that's UN statements or documents submitted, publications, and others. Also worth noting here, I definitely only focused on the activity of the New Zealand Federation, not on the activity of the International Federation.
And that's important to remember, that you are putting this in for New Zealand, not for international. Yeah, it's this is where sometimes it gets complicated, is to keep coming back to this is for New Zealand, and what we do in New Zealand is a small part of what international does, but is supported and strengthened in that way.
Yeah. Just making sure you've got time to ask questions or to ask me to slow down or anything like that. We're just throwing a lot at you. So remember, this is recorded and you'll get a copy of this document too. And then they ask the main objective, why we want to be included in their database. And I put the advancement, it's a single selection, advancement of women for New Zealand. And that was it. There we go. Easy, easy, so easy. Takes a minute. So, but what we'll do is pause for a moment. Any questions, any comments that anyone would like to raise? Hilma.
Hello, I have a question. So all this information that you showed, when we will apply for it, where will we find this? Is there a specific place in a site where we need to go? Yeah.
Yeah, there is, and I'll put it in the chat because I can't remember the URL
Okay.
off by heart.
It's Isango,
Thank you.
esango.un.org.
Dare I ask, Carol, what does Isango stand for?
What does it stand for? I've got no idea. It's just the name of the database.
All right.
Does the layman know? Anybody else know?
Isango, NGO, Economic and Social Council,
It's
a
the
something
NGO branch
NGO.
of the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. So
Here
that'll be
is-
Economic Social Affairs, NGO, ESA will be Economic Social Affairs.
So I put in the chat the page for creating a new profile.
Yes, yeah. So this is the first thing that you really have to do, is get your profile set up. That's why we wanted to go through these questions, so you can start to look at them, see them. You can save them. You save it as a draft, and you are able to go back with information. You can go in and out of it once you've set up, once you've started to set up your profile. But as it says there, just because you have a profile doesn't mean that you have the status, because there's a lot more to come. We do have the next 23 questions, but we have 10 minutes. So my feeling is that we maybe look at those other questions at another time, and that we consider anyone who's going ahead. You set a time frame to start your application process by setting up your profile, and you can come back and then we can go through the rest of the questions. How do you feel, Nalema and Siobhan, about that shift in the agenda?
Yeah, I think we can do that. I was about to post the link. I think Vilma, I've already sent you in the WhatsApp. I'll post it here as well. So if there is any other more questions, I think we can put it on WhatsApp group. Also, and I think you have the WhatsApp group for the ones who are applying.
Yeah.
So you've got, I think we could give them like maybe 2 months at least, possibly after Asia Pacific, depending on how crazy it gets for Carol and Nalima and I, to get your profile registration in. Thanks. And then we'll come back and we'll look at the detailed ECOSOC application.
And reach out if there's anything that you all you need. Vilma, is that answering your question? Your hand is still up, or is there another question?
Yes, I have another question.
Okay.
So we are supposed to get registered just in June next year. When are we supposed to enter the link that Melina has just shared?
Soon as,
Yes, as soon as you can,
yeah.
straight away, anytime.
So-
You can do your profile registration anytime. You can do your ECOSOC application anytime. It's that June is the cutoff for that year that they assess them and that they will get back to you and start sort of turning it around. So if you submit it on June 21st, they're not going to look at it until the following year. So you can do this all anytime, but we're starting now with this process to help you get prepared for June 2026 to have it in time for that deadline.
Yeah, I think it's useful if you are going for it, go in tomorrow, right? Don't wait, go in tomorrow. I know it's Saturday, but go in, put your name in it, put your organizational name in it, save it, and remember your passwords because you're going to need them, right? And start it, go through the whole questions. It takes you can't move on until you've filled out one page. That's the challenge that there is. You have to fill it all out before you can then go back and double check it. But just start it, take that step, and then anything that you find sticky or you're not sure of, we're here to say, this is how we did it, this is how you can do it. Let's talk it through if it's a sticky issue. Barbara, was that your hand going up? Oh,
Maybe
no, okay.
Maybe an idea would be if you could share with us what Shiba has just shared on screen. Maybe if we could have that, then we could go all through everything before going to the site to get prepared.
Yeah.
Or it's possible going there and saving. You can get out and then before submitting the final.
There's no way you'll sit and do this in one process. There is
Okay.
absolutely, it takes hours of work. I think, Siobhan, how long did it take you to do how many?
The profile registration was probably 45 minutes to an hour. The actual application was half a day. It was spread over a couple of, spread over a weekend of joy. But I could very easily communicate that information, take it out of my head or out of our founding documents, because I'd been VPUN for 4 years and executive secretary before then and chair of the issues. Like, I was lucky that I had that background, that it was easy for me to do it relatively. So that's why I'm just encouraging federations to find those people and to have, like, you could sit down as a couple of people and do it together as well. There's nothing stopping anyone from doing that. I'm going to share that profile registration questions document in the WhatsApp. And I can actually put the WhatsApp invite here too, in the chat.
I've got a template of the other questions if you want to also have those to have a look at.
Nalima makes a comment if English or a UN language, and I think the only other language acceptable for this is French.
I think it's all English.
Yeah. Nalima suggests ask a native speaker to check your text entries.
I think that's Norman, not Nalima.
Oh, sorry. You know, someone mentioned that your names are very similar.
Yes, Norman. Never mentioned it.
About this is that this registration does not only open once, it opens twice in a year. That means if you apply before Jan, as soon as possible, then your process will start right that day. And that means, that's the day when they count. So just don't wait for deadline. I was just looking at the website, like when is the deadline and everything. It is open like twice a year. So June it's done, but you can start now, and then before the next deadline, just apply. Don't wait. Yeah.
Rita, to your question, you can We'd prefer people to be putting questions on the WhatsApp group, because any question you have, quite likely another federation has.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll use WhatsApp.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we because there's another 20 odd questions here, what I can do is put this template onto the WhatsApp group as well, so you can get the full range of questions. What you can see when you look at the second part, when you look at the actual application, which is separate to the profile, is the way you have to explain it has to be consistent across your profile, across each of the questions that they ask you throughout the document. So some of it's really simple yes or no, like, has your organization previously applied for consultative status? Yes, no. That's a simple one. But then there are others which may ask you to link to a former question. So, for example, when you talk about your sources of income, the figures you provide in membership dues have to match your answers to questions 14, 15, and 16 as well. And in your organizational structure and in that part of your profile when you talk about members. So you really need to be cross-checking. Everything is here. I'll put this in the WhatsApp as well, so you've got it and you can have a look at it. If that's useful. Shall we do that?
I think that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. I don't want to put too much out there. So
yeah. Remember, if you are feeling unsure about this, we're here to help. And it can, it can be taken in stages and steps. You don't have to feel like you know it all now. So yes, please keep an eye on the WhatsApp group. Check in on the recordings if that would be helpful. If you open the ECOSOC application questionnaire questions that Carol puts on there, and you feel alarmed, do not be alarmed. We're going to have another session and we're going to dig into them. It's going to be as fun as this one. And I think we're going to certainly, that next session is going to be before the end of the year. I'm sorry, but just the August Asia Pacific conference is a bit of a, I don't know. I don't know what's it going to do to our capacity. So we need to just be a bit flexible.
Both Siobhan and I are going to be at the Asia Pacific conference. So I'm not going to say pull us aside and grab us to do it, but we're available to give advice if anybody who's going to the Asia Pacific conference.
Right, it is midnight. My pumpkin is here. Nalima has a meeting to go to, and thank you all so much. Barbara,
Thanks.
question? No, cool.
Do you want to put the code up for the so that for those who are not in the WhatsApp group can link in easier?
I can do that. It's also in the chat.
Siobhan, I have sent you the WhatsApp of Rita to you so that you can add her in the group, because I'm not admin there. So
great.
One moment. Okay.
That QR code takes you to the WhatsApp group. Oh, Velma just joined. Cool. Oh, signaling to Nerman. Nerman, nice to see you, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this. I think it's really important to keep underscoring the need to be consistent with all the information you provide, and I'm glad you're doing that. Because as treasurer of the Committee on Migration, one of the biggest problems we have is members being slapdash or not really being consistent with their information. And they don't realize that we have to report back on everything, which is another layer of confirmation that the UN uses.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when we do reporting, it's going to be interesting to get some of the UN reps to talk about how they do their reports, because I know for myself, which is a regional organization, Asia Pacific Women's Watch, who helped work with Pacific Women's Watch to get their accreditation. We often report on the Security Council work as well, because some of our members work in that area. And so that's not actually in our profile, but it's in our reporting. So it's how do you cover that when you do your reporting?
I'm looking forward to doing that session in 2 years once New Zealand has ECOSOC accreditation. Now we have to do reporting.
That's right.
Okay. Wait, we got accreditation.
Fabulous. All right, thank you, everyone. Over to you, Nalima, for the last words.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carol and Siobhan. I think we are just getting started. And one thing I always say is that as a woman, we are so scared to start anything, but if we get good guidance, we can get it done, because what I have seen is not just a federation, that even a single club of one of the UNESCO club in Nepal actually has a consultative status, and they are the one with whom we are organizing side events in Spain for the Finance for Development. And I think the only thing that we need is guidance and support from the ones who already know how to use it. So this transformation of knowledge is what we need, and with Carol, who has already done it, and Siobhan, who is just applying it, and we have Norman, who knows how it runs. I think she calls herself, I call herself UN baby, because she knows inside outside about UN. So I think having all these people, it's I look forward that Brazil, Vienna, and Austria, and
Turkey. There's a small country between Canada and Mexico. They might be interested in getting accredited.
So let's see how many can get status in 2 years. And yes, the next time, if you get the status, one thing I can tell you is you don't have to depend on anyone. You can take your entire country members to all the UN events. So with that, thank you so much, and let's continue this after the Asia Pacific. So it's easier because applying is one thing, but I know if this job is given to me, I will need somebody who actually knows the UN, the words that we need to use with our applications, because not all our first language is English. Mine is not English. English is like second. So this English has been a lot of problem for many members. So I think that's where we can help with whatever knowledge we have. And I look forward for the next meeting soon. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye, girls.
Thank you so
See you
much.
next. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
Thank
Nilima.
you, Siobhan,
Goodbye,
Carol,
everyone.
Nilima.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Siobhan.
Good night.